I see this all the time in books and in blogs. It's this opinion that if you don't quarantine your new chickens, then you're being really irresponsible because you are very likely going to introduce disease into your flock and end up with a really bad situation. And I understand this because it is true that every time you bring a new chicken or chickens into an existing flock, you are risking your flock getting sick or the chickens that you're bringing in getting sick because they might bring in something that your existing flock is not immune to and vice versa. But the problem with the general recommendations for quarantining new birds is that there are a lot of people that don't have the amount of land necessary to do it properly, to do what the experts say is the proper way to quarantine your birds. And I think that if we're going to talk about chicken keeping and keep it inclusive for everybody, which is always my goal, we need to give people options that don't have a piece of land where they can quarantine birds super far away from each other and have this best case scenario going on, because life is not about best case scenarios, and I want to give you some options. Hey guys, welcome to Chickenlandia. I am a backyard chicken educator here in the Pacific Northwest, but you can call me the president of Chickenlandia. So most of you know, if you've been following me for any amount of time, that I love to rescue chickens. And I just got these two super funny little frizzles. They are so funny and they are so scraggly, and I call them tribbles. I can't really tell them apart, but I've named them Libby and Connie. And let me tell you something about Libby and Connie. They have their differences, but they still get along. Now, if you understand what I'm talking about, you can leave a comment and let me know. Libby and Connie, they need each other, and it's okay. I did quarantine Libby and Connie when they got here because I wanted to make sure that they were healthy. I didn't want to introduce them to my flock and have them get my flock sick. But even so, it is a risk bringing them here, but it's a risk I'm willing to take because I want to rescue chickens. So it's always like risk versus risk, and we make our decisions with the best information that we can get. Sometimes a chicken can be carrying a disease and the symptoms of that disease do not show up until that chicken is in a stressful situation. And that's why sometimes you might go out and get a couple chickens from the flock next door or wherever, and they look really healthy. And so you bring them home and you have them with your flock, and then all of a sudden a few days later, after they've been through this stressful situation, all of a sudden they're like sneezing, they look sick, they're droopy, they're lethargic, and you're like, oh my gosh, these chickens are sick. And it's that they had something when they arrived here, and now it's showing up and possibly putting your flock at risk. So all this to say, that's why most backyard chicken educators really recommend at least a 2-week quarantine for new chickens coming into your flock, and to keep them about 30 to 40 or more feet away from your existing flock. Make sure that you wash your hands when you're moving between the flocks. Make sure that you wear different shoes with the new flock, or that you clean your shoes with maybe like a bleach solution between, when you're moving between the flocks, or cover your shoes with some type of plastic. You just want to make sure that you are not cross-contaminating the flocks while you're figuring out if these new chickens coming in have anything that you need to be aware of. The new chickens in your existing flock, they need to have different feeding areas, they need to have different watering areas. Everything needs to be kept separate. But like I was saying at the beginning of the video, a lot of people just don't have the space to follow these recommendations. They just can't do it. They don't have the resources to do it. What I would say is just do the best you can. If you can keep the new chickens behind some sort of wall, like if you can keep them in your garage, even if they're relatively close to your existing flock, if there's that barrier between them, that is certainly better than nothing. If you don't have that, just keep them as far away as possible from each other and still follow all the regulations, all the recommendations as much as you can. I do also recommend a protocol for adopted chickens. You can do this if you're quarantining your new chickens, and you can also do it if you are not able to quarantine. These are really good practices that you can do when you bring in new chickens, and it will help to mitigate some of the risk that you are absorbing when you do that. So the first thing I want you to do when you're bringing in new chickens is put some electrolytes, vitamins, and probiotics into their water. And this will just give them a nice boost of vitamins and probiotics. There are some recipes online for homemade electrolytes, but another thing that you can do if you can't get these or you don't want to buy them is you can put a tablespoon per gallon of apple cider vinegar into your new little flock's water. Now, when I bring in new chickens, they're usually pretty stressed out. Even if they come from a great place like Libby and Connie, they were loved. They were very loved where they were. But it's a stressful situation being integrated into a new flock, or just, going into this new place where you're in quarantine and, that's all stressful. We know how stressful all that is. So what I like to do is give them a nice little treat, something that's really healthy for them. I will scramble up some eggs. I will chop up like a clove of garlic and sprinkle that into the eggs. I will get some dried oregano and thyme, and I will sprinkle that into the eggs. It's just like this, immune boosting meal, and I'll give them that like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And you can give it to your existing flock just to give them that little extra bit of protection. Stress can really bring out the sickness in chickens. It can make them vulnerable to sickness. And generally, you just don't want chickens to get stressed out because they just get vulnerable to a lot of things. So when I bring new chickens in, I will put a couple of drops of a flower remedy called Rescue Remedy. And you can get that at like PetSmart and Petco. I'm not sponsored by them. I wish I was. It's just a really gentle flower essence. That's what they're called. And they kind of work like homeopathics on like an energetic level. Put a couple of drops of that into your new chicken's water and into your existing flock's water. And that will help kind of bring that stress level down, which will be better for their health in the long run. When I bring new chickens in, regardless of the circumstances, I will treat them for mites and lice and scaly leg mite. Those are so common, especially for chickens that are stressed out. I do have a video about treating your chickens for mites and lice in a natural way. I will link that in the description for you so you can check that out. But you also want to make sure that wherever you're keeping your new chickens, that they have access to a dust bath. And I have a video about that too. I'll put that in the description. But you want to make sure that they can take a dust bath because that's how they deal with external parasites. That's how they get clean. Chickens don't take baths in water. They take baths in dirt. And you want to make sure that they have that access so that if they have any creepy crawlers on them, they can get rid of them and it doesn't become a problem for your whole flock. So all these things, they're not foolproof. You can have the best practices in the world and you can end up with sick chickens. That's just the nature of nature, And I think we're learning a lot about that lately. It's like, we have to accept a certain level of risk to be human. And chickens have to accept a level of risk to be who they are. And that's okay. And it's hard sometimes, but we're all doing the best we can. And my goal is to make sure everybody has options and everybody feels like, you know what, I can do this. That's my goal. But if you come home with new chickens and you realize they are sick, there is a protocol called the Sick Chicken Protocol that I created. It is the REST method. You can learn all about it by clicking right here. It's 100% friendly. Backyard chickens education and entertainment, and I know you're gonna love it.